What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor after 10 hours. So 2 days in, actually a day and a half. I've put in 10 hours. I'm going to be playing it a lot more today, tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have a full review Monday or Tuesday. I want to talk about what I feel of the game, so far. We'll also talk a little bit about the performance issues, if I experienced any, because that is, as you can see online, a really big part of whether people like or don't like this game. So, one thing I want to get out of the way is I was playing it on PS5, okay, so that's where I'm playing it, and for me, technical-wise, it's been relatively good except for one moment. So I actually had tweeted this yesterday. Of the 10 hours, I'd say 9 of them have been almost without issue. Now, maybe like small little things here and there, but nothing consistent and nothing that I can say, oh my God, well, number one, like it pulls me out of the game or this is unique to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, right? But there was about a 1 hour span and it was a specific place. It was actually on that shattered moon. So when you unlock, multiple planets, it's the moon above Kobo and you go there. It reminds me a lot of like Camino, at least from the outside. So if you guys have been there, that's the planet that for me, the game really just decided to not try anymore. There was a lot of performance issues when you're running or even striking, dodging. It definitely didn't seem like it was keeping up, right? Any kind of consistent frames. Actually, that was the one moment that my game, it didn't crash. It was a forever black screen. So it didn't give me like the error update to say, hey, you've been kicked out of the game. But I fast traveled to a different meditation point and it just never brought Cal. Cal never made it to that one. So I had to restart the game. Beyond that, and that was not like the 10-hour mark. That was maybe hour 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. That was the 1 hour where it was messed up. And then after that, it actually went back to normal. So for me, it was about 1 hour of some annoyances. One thing that I guess did actually kick me out of the game. But beyond that, I'm not going to hold any performances over this game. Obviously, I'm not playing it on PC, but I just wanted to be kind of transparent with where does that, affect my love or not love of this game, because I think it is kind of making or breaking a lot of people's enjoyment. As for the game itself, I really like it. I want to be careful with my words, because I say things like great, amazing, like I use those kind of words a lot. I really like it. I think it's a great game, but I do think there's some things holding it back from being an amazing game, being like my favorite game of the year. So I want to walk you through that. Number one, the story I do think is really good when it's firing. So I think because the planets are so big and because you're kind of getting wrapped up in, well, let's go down this alley or let's go down this hallway, even though we don't need to. It spaces the story out maybe further than it should, and part of that, I guess, is a me problem, right? Because I'm the one directing Cal to the wrong area. But when the story is going, the base story of this game is extremely good. I like the villains. I like the idea of, even though it's a little bit jarring, I got to be honest there, the idea that like the band has broken up. So like Cal, Marin, Seer, and Grease, they went their own ways, and there's flashbacks and stuff. That's really different. I don't know if I expect, I knew like you went into this game without all of you together, right? That's been shown, that's been kind of known, but it does feel different because, I just played Fallen Order like 2 months ago, to replay it, and it's like, oh, this is so much fun. Everybody's together. Everybody's doing exactly the same thing. And then in this game, everybody's broken up. Everybody is also doing their own, they're doing individual things, right? And it's not even like you're trying to get the band back together. It's like things are just kind of working out how they are. It's a little different, especially going from one game to the next, but I definitely like the tone shift. I also really, so far, obviously, maybe half the game I still have left. I really like what they've done with Cal. I don't want to talk too much about like his personality or what's happening, right? Because I don't want to give things away. But the way they're treating him as a character of what he's been doing in those 5 years and kind of his mentality towards the galaxy and how he thinks he fits in, how he thinks other people fit in, I really, really like that. It's actually kind of more depressing. It feels actually more like an Empire Strikes Back, right, where it's just a little bit more grim, but it's a little bit more, like grounded. It's probably not the best way of describing it, but you get a sense of like loss. Like these people they're not winning consistently, right? The Empire's getting more powerful. Obviously, that's kind of shown even, I think, in one of the story trailers. You have the beginning of the game that's kind of like that, where it's like, yeah, you're fighting, but you're also losing a lot. So I like that. I think that's a really good tone kind of shift that this game has versus the first one, where maybe Cal's a bit more kind of naive, and he is succeeding at everything he's doing, and in ways he's succeeding in what he's doing in Survivor, but also like you can tell the galaxy's still not doing all that well. So I really like the story. The characters are just as good. Marin, by the way, 10 out of 10. She's incredible. All the characters, I think, in this game so far are really, really good. In terms of the gameplay and the mechanics, so this is where I would say great, but there's things holding it back. I will say, I actually think the game's too big. Now, you can hit the dislike button, unsubscribe, all that stuff. I figured that will probably be one of the more controversial things that I say this year or regarding Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I think it's too big just in the sense that it breaks apart some of the best moments in this game. So I do think when you're traversing the world, when you're doing it well, right, when it's kind of planned out for you, when you get the dash, it's actually very good, right? When you're chaining together movements, the game's really fun. It always feels very fluid. Like, Cal's movements are always pretty okay. But when you have everything kind of planned out, I think this game is great. There's too many moments in this game, though, I think, that kind of just slow down, or it's just way too big, where you can be platforming in this game for no joke 5, 10, 15 minutes on end, where there's no combat. And also, there's really no anything else. Like, there's maybe music in the background, but nobody's talking. Maybe Cal and BD1 will have one quick little joke to each other, right, where Cal will just say something and BD will, make a noise. But that's kind of it. And beyond that, it's you're wall running to then jump to then climb to then shimmy. It's just nonstop, and it can go for a very long time. And I don't know, I'm not really into that for a game that doesn't need to be, I don't think, this big. That's the main thing with me. I think they could have condensed it down. I don't think you need to have 10 minutes of platforming in a row. I think you can have 5, and the pacing would just be better. So that's one thing I think holding it back. The gameplay, I mean, I love the fighting. I always love the fighting in Fallen Order. I love it here. One thing I'll say, and it's, okay, maybe it's going to be worded a little bit bad. The improvements they've made to fighting I found to be almost non-existent. And I don't actually think that's all that bad. So, of course, when you say that, it maybe comes across bad. Obviously, they've added the stances, right? So you go from 2 to 5. That's a huge change. And they can be upgraded. There's plenty of stuff you can do. There's new finishers. There's new kind of movements like that. So visually, I think it always keeps up. I think the enemies, the variety in the enemies, they're always keeping up. I just find that it's like, well, it's the exact same thing. And there's nothing, to me, that's really wrong with that, because I always really liked the combat of Fallen Order. Now, one thing I will say, I have always complained about the lock-on system and the way Cal kind of positions himself in Fallen Order, because I feel there was almost zero done to enhance the gameplay from the fighting side, right? Besides stance, so like adding looks, adding different kind of things like that, right? So besides doing that, the actual mechanic of blocking and parrying and stuff like that has not been changed. It's just enemy variety. So the lock-on system that I always had a problem with has not been touched at all, right? Because a lot of things have not been touched at all. So when I'm playing this game and I feel like I should be able to block something, but Cal is not perfectly aligned with the enemy, he'll get hit, or you'll get a cheap hit, on you. And that annoyed me, 3 years ago. It annoyed me 2 months ago when I replayed it, and it still annoys me now because nothing's really changed. Again, pro con, I suppose. There's really nothing wrong with the combat, so you don't really need to fix it besides the locking on. I would say that is one thing, but it's really fun. I do think, going on the positive side, the enemy variety, the battle droids, they are a blast to play. There's a bit more, obviously there's like mini bosses kind of scattered throughout the world as well. The side missions, right, the rumors that they call them, they're really good. And I do think because of that variety, you're not necessarily always changing up how you play, because you really can't handle most situations just with one stance. You can change depending, and you will probably fare a little bit better, but it's not super mandatory. But you still feel good, right? Because you're going in, you're fighting like the B2 battle droids versus B1s. You're fighting bounty hunters. You're fighting, all these different, the Bedlam Raiders. Like, all of them are a little bit different. Now, they're different in the sense that you're going to have to watch their fighting pattern. You're going to have to watch when they turn red. You're going to have to know when to dodge. So it's still just as strategic, if not way more so, than Fallen Order. I really, really like that. The game looks good. The game feels good. There's variety in the worlds. Each world, like I said, the one planet that the game decided to stop trying really reminded me a lot of Camino. I like Jeddah. I like Kobo. Like, they're all very cool. Kobo literally never ends, right? It just keeps expanding. And like the things that are hidden on the planet of Kobo, how do the people there not know that this planet literally never stops, and it contains like the most powerful things or places places in the known galaxy. I don't know how you can hide all of that in one planet, but boy, this game did it. So no, overall, I'm really, like I said in the beginning, liking, loving, even, I don't know how to like, because I don't give scores, right? So I guess I got to be careful on the words I'm using. I would say at its best, I absolutely do love it. When the story is hitting, and there's some huge moments in just the first 10 hours, I absolutely love it. I would say I get frustrated sometimes. I'm a pretty bad puzzle solver. Sometimes they're not like that evident of what you're supposed to do. I had to look up a few things. I think 2 or 3 things. It's not that much. The fighting is still great, but that locking on is still annoying. So it's hit or miss. I don't know if the bigger means better thing applies here, because ultimately I think you could have cut some of it out and it wouldn't have affected it all that much. I think you don't need as much platforming and jumping around as you do, but it's still a great game so far, and the performance issues really haven't been too much of a problem. So this was basically a full review, but in my actual full review, obviously we'll talk about the full game. Maybe we'll give some spoilers here and there as well. So look for that in the next couple days. Jedi videos pretty much every day as well. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I'll see you all on the next one.